us to take this nation to where we desire, we must continually engage with critical stakeholders. And when we are talking about payment of taxes in Nigeria, man is surely and certainly a critical stakeholder.
That was Mr. Abiodun Aino, Coordinating Director, Domestic Taxes Group at the FIRS, speaking at an interactive forum on tax matters put together by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, on Thursday, 21st of February 2019. And with that, we welcome you to today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Pearl Naimaka.
And I am Chiamaka Ohawuchi.
The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria is a very important stakeholder in the Nigerian economy, as MAN members contribute immensely to the revenue basket of the country.
Taxes and taxation are the very heart of day-to-day activities of the members of MAN, as it is indeed that of all other stakeholders. To underscore this, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, was a guest speaker at the forum. The interactive forum was kick-started with the opening remarks of the President of MAN, Engineer Mansour Ahmed.
This interactive session is timely and should help to resolve some challenges that manufacturers in particular are encountering in their relationship with the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The association would like to assure you that we share the views of the service, which is part of the transformation initiatives of the present administration that seeks to create a more prosperous economy through diversification of the economy and, of course, of government revenues away from the dominance of oil earnings.
While commending the Federal Inland Revenue Service for the giant strides achieved in the last 3 years, Engineer Ahmed drew attention to areas of concern of his members.
MAN appreciates what FIRS has been doing, especially in the last 3 years, given the fact that the revenues from taxes have significantly improved and, in fact, are becoming another major source of central government's yearly budget funding, thereby minimizing the vagaries and volatility associated with oil prices at the international market. Mr. Chairman, while we strive to attain this feat, however, we want to strongly advise that government should widen the tax net rather than increase the tax burden, especially at the present time when manufacturers and the other critical actors of the economy are indeed struggling to grow their businesses and therefore to grow the economy as a whole. We like to place on record and commend you for your kind support and understanding in respect of the value-added tax VAT exemptions on biscuits and raw materials for the manufacturing sector of diapers. As you would expect, there are still a few areas that need to be reviewed, especially on the issues of VAT, on raw materials, which will be explained in detail in the course of our interaction.
One major area of concern to manufacturers is VAT, value-added tax, especially the levying of VAT on raw materials. Mr. Paul Gbededo kick-started the question and answer session with a position paper on value-added tax.
We've got quite some few questions already received at the Secretariat here, and those are the questions that I'll be engaging the chairman with. The first one is on value-added tax, and especially value-added tax demand on the sale of animal feeds by Federal Inland Revenue. The VAT Act contains some express wording exempting basic food items, fertilizer, locally produced agricultural and veterinary medicine, agricultural and farming machinery. The FIRS circular number 9701, dated 1st January 1997, identifies various specific items as falling under the above heads of exemptions provided in the VAT Act, including machinery for preparing animal feeding stuffs. However, in circular number 9901, FIR also recognizes agricultural equipment and products as being exempt from VAT. The foregoing demonstrates a clear intention to stimulate the agricultural industry in Nigeria by exempting the entire agricultural value chain from VAT. Therefore, it is surprising to subject animal feed to VAT, while the equipment and inputs required to produce animal feed for human consumption and animal consumption, as well as end products, meat and fish, are VAT exempt. FIR's position is that the VAT Act did not expressly exempt animal feeds, thereby seeking to separate animal and human food. This ambiguity and the aggressive interpretation of the Act has put companies operating in the feed mill industry at huge economic risk, enough to force these companies out of business and by implication exit the Nigerian agricultural industry. It is also important for the country to take a cue from other African countries like Kenya, Ghana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, where animal feeds are either zero-rated or exempt from VAT. This is the appeal. 1, we pray that we should review and make recommendations to the Ministry of Finance to exercise her powers under Section 38B of the VAT Act to update by way of an executive order published in the National Gazette. Our prayer number 2, to discontinue the imposition of VAT on animal feeds. And prayer number 3, to approve the tax clearance certificate to affected companies having complied with the required provisions of the law.
Responding, Mr. Fowler began by appreciating the organized private sector in being tax compliant and contributing to revenue generation.
Let me first of all appreciate MAN. Let me thank you also for your contribution and cooperation when I was the chairman of Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. I often like to point it out that with the assistance of MAN and NECA, the organized private sector, which are most of your members, had a 99% tax compliance when it came to state tax. So thank you very much. I believe that cooperation will also continue with the federal. In terms of your prayers, I'm glad to inform you that we have made a submission to the Honorable Minister of Finance and we're waiting for it to be approved. However, we as an agency of government have to go with existing laws and regulations, but we understand what you're saying, and I believe, hopefully, before the end of this month, that should be issued. The issue of approving tax clearance certificates to affected companies, as long as you have applied for a tax clearance certificate and fulfilled all conditions, you will get your tax clearance certificate. I'd also like to point out here that you can actually apply for a tax clearance certificate online and also receive it online. That is one of the innovations that had started early last year. I think to date, we have a little over 59,000 that have applied online, and I would like to recommend that you take advantage of this. You can file your returns online, apply for your tax and certificates also online.
The next one is, there's been a lot of concerns on tax review. How is this conducted, and how often should it be done?
Now, we're here, I like to call these meetings family meetings. We might have some different points of view, but we're one family working for the common interest of Nigeria. In terms of the tax review, unfortunately, we had initially started off with what we call the self-assessment. But we noticed that some of the returns filed were not accurate. And we started a systematic audit review of some accounts. Now, either because they did not understand the policies or the tax laws properly, for the first 200 accounts that were audited, not one was 100% compliant. Now, things have changed since then. I think we've had more interactive sessions with members and stakeholders. That has improved. What we're trying to do is to find out where, either due to misunderstanding of tax policy or the laws, we carry out tax reviews and audits. And once we have established what should be paid, when it should be paid, I believe that we can now start to look at those that need to be audited annually or semi-annually. Our belief is that once you're on the right path, I do not think you need to be audited more than once or twice within a period of 3 years.
The next question from member companies. Is it possible to issue an annual tax statement to companies to enable and ensure payments are captured as at when it is made? How do we also have access to withholding tax credit note immediately payment is made? This is because one of our members paid 10 million on withholding tax without a credit note, and therefore vendors are worried. So what do we do in this instance?
We basically have in place a solution for that, which is very simple. Once you register your company, the authorized email or the contact person with FIRS, anytime a payment is made on your tax ID, you get a notification. That gives you the opportunity to download your receipt, confirm your receipt online. So in situations whereby you have deducted withholding tax from a vendor, once you remit that withholding tax amount, the vendor will automatically get a notification from FIRS and will be in a position to download that receipt. This also covers any payment that you make, even on your own account. I don't know how many of your members have started using this facility, but it has been operational since 2018. And if you have any questions pertaining to that, please let me know, but it's extremely simple. Just register your company, the tax ID, and the authorized email or the phone number you want the notification to go to, and immediately a payment is made, you get an email or an SMS alert, and you can download that receipt and also confirm the receipt. The same with those that have got withholding tax credits. We've also uploaded our system with all withholding tax credit notes from 2012 to date. So if you even want a historic review of all withholding tax that have been paid on your behalf, you also have access to that.
The next point here is this. Withholding tax and VAT are being deducted at source by ministries and agencies of federal government that awarded contracts. We often realize that some of these deductions were not paid or forwarded to FIRS. This, we have found out, has become a big problem as FIRS staff put the burden of such companies to make sure the deductions are paid, and this in return delayed TCC renewal. What do we do in this case?
Well, thank you very much. We are quite aware of this situation, and we have made provision. Any company that shows evidence that any federal agency has deducted withholding tax and not remitted, and you refer it to us, we take that up on your behalf. And that does not stop you from getting your tax clearance certificate. We'll actually do that on your behalf with the federal agency concerned. And in fact, if it even involves a state government, we also do that. And of course, all these services are free of charge. And of course, you will get your tax clearance certificates immediately.
We are very happy about that. But what if your officers come and put pressure on the company?
Well, that's why I brought some state coordinators with me here present. We also have a director of efficiency. We also have the executive secretary of the Joint Tax Board. None of our officers should put pressure on any taxpayer, especially when they have stated that these deductions have been made by a federal government agency or even a state government. We actually do that on your behalf.
That, we must say, is some succor for taxpayers, very magnanimous of the FIRS.
Very magnanimous indeed.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office. You can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government coffers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome once again. The program is Tax Matters and we are sharing with you highlights of the interactive forum held in Lagos between the FIRS and MAN on Thursday, 21st of February 2019. It was not all about VAT and withholding tax. Other important issues came up.
Some members are expressing concerns on the recent circular from FIRS to all banks, instructing the commercial banks to freeze the accounts of companies with outstanding tax liabilities. Would you like to throw more light on this, please?
Well, yes, I would. I had a stakeholders meeting sometime last year where we tried to explain the rationale, whereby we looked at corporate organizations, partnerships that had annual banking turnover in excess of 1 billion naira, but had no tax ID and no tax payment. Our position was that if you charge VAT, which is not your money, or you deduct withholding tax from vendors, and you have no tax ID, number one, you cannot even pay that to the FIRS because you can't pay without a tax ID. So these operators were defrauding the society and the nation by charging consumers VAT, by deducting withholding tax and not remitting on behalf of other taxpayers. We had over 3,000 of such, and we had informed them that if they do not come forward, we will follow the law and put up what we call a substitution. Now, what the Act actually does say is that the banks should deduct the amount as taxes from the account. We, however, told the banks not to deduct any amount, just put a lien on those accounts and let the taxpayers come forward. To date, over 23 billion naira has been paid on those accounts. But then we also noticed that operators that had banking turnover between 100 million and 1 billion were equally at fault. We received information from the banks. We have 59,000 of these so-called operators that have no tax ID and are not making any payments to the Federation account. When the president of MAN highlighted that we should expand the tax net, those are part of the measures to expand the tax net. And in response to that question, in the last 18 months, we have added over 1.2 million business accounts to the tax net. Under the Joint Tax Board, in terms of individuals, over 10 million individuals have been added. So we're expanding the tax net. But our main focus here was that we have to protect taxpayers whose withholding tax are being deducted, not remitted, and also consumers who are paying VAT and those monies are not being remitted also. During the VAT exercise, we came up with 96 billion of unpaid taxes. 50% of those amounts related to VAT. meaning that business operators who charge VAT did not remit those amounts. And I think it's, I'll choose my words very carefully, but it's outright theft to charge consumers VAT and not remit it. And one has to be aware that 85% of the VAT goes to the state governments that are looking for money to meet and pay salaries. Taxpayers who also have withholding tax credits, and when they file their returns at the end of the year, sometimes they do not know this until 18 months after the withholding tax has been deducted. And you might go to the business and they will say, we have done it. Meanwhile, they've not done it. But with this new innovation, within 45 days, because you're supposed to remit withholding tax monthly, within 45 days, if anybody deducts withholding tax from your account, from your contract, within 45 days, if you don't get an email where you can download that remittance, you know that that money has not been remitted. And that is the basis of why we put a substitution on these accounts. However, in the last 2 weeks, we have had a flood from various quarters of them trying to regularize their accounts. And it got to a point that administratively, we're not able to unfreeze the accounts as fast as those who are coming in to make payments. And so we have given a 30-day lift on the suspension, hoping that within 30 days, 50,000 defaulters will have come forward, regularized, got a tax ID, made some payments. And we're not even saying they should pay all the arrears, because we're allowing what we call self-assessment. Let them come forward, declare what they have deducted as withholding tax and VAT, make a payment, and then we'll look at it from there. And I think that is the only approach really to take. We have lifted it for 30 days, yes. And then also, I must admit, during this exercise, we made a few administrative errors. I don't know if any of your clients are here, but we did freeze a few accounts in error. Either the names or the bank sent in a name as having no tax ID, and it was overlooked. But we have written letters of apology, and of course we unfroze those accounts within 24 hours, as soon as we were aware that that had taken place. So if there are any of your members who had that unfortunate experience, I'd like to personally apologize, and I did sign personal apology letters where that did happen.
Thank you very much for your humility and modesty here.
Do you provide goods and services? Then you must answer these important questions. Are you registered for VAT? Do you charge VAT on the goods and services you provide? Do you keep records of all your transactions? Do you file VAT returns? Do you remit VAT collected to government coffers? If your answer to any of these questions is no, then you are breaking the law. The law demands total compliance. Therefore, you must register for VAT. You must charge VAT on goods and services. You must file VAT returns. And you must remit all VAT collected on behalf of government within 21 days to the bank nearest to you. To do otherwise is a crime punishable everywhere in the world. VAT is prescribed by the law. Do the right thing. Collect and pay VAT. This message is from the FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
30 days grace? Another act of magnanimity. You know, the executive chairman is on top of his game.
Yes, I marvel at how he manages to hold his own at every opportunity. He has this enviable grip on data and statistics surrounding his job.
There's so much more from where all that came from. But because of time constraints, this story will have to continue in a subsequent episode. So, keep a date with us next week on this same station, same day of the week, same time of the day. Thank you for watching.
Bye for now.